is whenever you have a project, so I'll just tell you the brief of override. So whenever we have a project starting in your future or a requirement is coming, and there's a new sender, like say a new application or new client who's going to send the feed to us, the file to us, and we have to read the file, we have to load the data in our table, and we have to send back the reports to them every day. That is a daily process. So before start of the project, these things are discussed, like so many meetings happen. In the meetings the requirements are discussed, and also in what length we are going to receive the file, what should be the format of the file, frequency, what should be the name of the file that we are going to receive, what should be the name of the file that we are going to send. All these things are discussed because configuration has to be done between the client server and our server, our application server. Okay, so this is how it works. Client will send the file, there will be a middleware team who will do some basic check on the file, like file name, format, whether these are correct or not, and they'll send back the file again to us. Similarly, we will send back a file to them. Middleware team will do a little bit of verification, and they will send the client file to the client. The problem with this is if the file name is static like this, matsc.input.ps, and output file is matsc.output.ps, then there will be a problem coming here from here. Why? The first day they will be able to send this file to us, matsc.input.ps, it is fine. The next day when they try to send a file, it will fail because we already would have had a file in our system. We already have a file called matsc.input.py in our system, so they will not be able to send the file, send another file with the same name that's next day. But since this process has to be automatic, we can't afford to fail this system. This is not manual process. No one is going to wake up in the midnight to delete the files manually so that we receive the new files. This is totally automatic process. That is why we have to use some variables in the file name. So the first three qualifiers are going to be constant anyway. The last qualifier we are going to use as variable. Now, what is a variable? So the best variable to use in this case is the current date. So if they send a file today, they will send with today's file, today's date. If they send a file tomorrow, automatically it will have tomorrow's date. Now, where will this date come from? Where will it come from? Where will it uh, be varied every day? Like the client can send the file with this name, current date every day, but they also have to automate this process in their system so that they're able to send the file with current date. So they must be having some parameters to put in the jobs that they are running in their system, so that the job add some current date at the end of the file name, and that's totally on their part. We are not concerned about that. Their application might be running in mainframe or some other technology. That's totally their concern, but they also might be having something, must be having something, otherwise it's not possible. Now we have to think about our process, how we are going to handle this, because when you write a job, you cannot write a job where you have a file with a hard-coded name. For example, this is a job that you are writing, as you have written here. There are two files, dd1 dddsn. This is input file, dd2 dddsn. This is the output file. You cannot have hard-coded dates like this. Suppose 2403 25. You cannot have this kind of, we cannot have this kind of hard-coded dates, because this job you are going to write and then you are going to deliver this to production environment, and in production it will run automatically every day. Now since your hard code is this date, you will only expect this file and it will only create this file with 2403. That is why you should add some variables so that it always accepts current date and creates a current day file. So for example, this type of cases we'll use, there is something called symbolic parameter. So I have written something called ampersand date dot. Now, the date is there now in between DATE. This is symbolic parameter. How is it written? It is started with an ampersand, it ends with a dot. So this is how it is written. Ampersand date dot. But the name of the parameter is date. This is how it is written. Now, okay, we understand the client is sending the file today. Suppose it's sending the file with today's date. They're somehow able to send this file with today's date. How are we going to accept this file here? Here we are using a variable. That is why we have a job scheduling tool where we will have to resolve these values. So we all know that whenever a JCL is triggered, it is triggered from the job scheduling tool. In the job scheduling tool, we have to resolve this parameter. So I have written date equal to percentage date. These are some system defined values which will bring or which will fetch current dates from the system always. So what will happen this time is when this JCL is triggered, because of this parameter, the value of date will become 240325, and in place of ampersand date dot, this value will come and it will be added. So it will become matsc dot input dot ps dot d240325, exactly the same file name with which the client has sent. Similarly, we are going to create a file with matsc dot output dot ps dot d240325, and this file we are going to send to them. So it's fine. Tomorrow again they will send a file. This job will get triggered. Tomorrow they will send a file with 25. Now this job expects a file with 25. So because of this current date parameter, it will generate tomorrow to 250325. So the file name will become 250325, and also we are going to generate a file with 250325, and we are going to send to them. This is how this process will run automatically every day. Now, the next question what comes is, if the client wants to send multiple files in a single day, what will happen that time? This is the case of one file per day. It's fine. The date throughout the day is same. But if the client wants to send multiple files in a single day, then this date is not going to be enough alone, because throughout the day, the date is going to be constant. How is it going to handle this process? That time, along with date, we have to use some time parameter as well. So let me write like this. So there are two dots that you are seeing in between. Why there are two dots? So you have to understand that the first dot is part of the symbolic parameter. The symbolic parameter started from ampersand date dot. It ended here at dot. Then the dot is the normal dot. Then this is the another parameter. So this is how you have to write. Why time parameter? Because time parameter changes throughout the day, all the time. So whenever they send a file, it will take the current time, and it will have always the current time. So although the date is same, the time is going to be different. This parameter also we need to resolve. All the symbolic parameters that you use in your JCL should either be resolved from the JCL or from the scheduling tool. So there's a sequence: job scheduling tool, then JCL, then proc. Meaning, if you have a proc and you have you have some steps there. In the steps, you have some symbolic parameters: date, time, or anything. It can be just a DB2 system, DB2 subsystem name, or any parameter. It can be whatever parameter is there. If those parameters are getting resolved from within the proc, but and not from within the JCL or job scheduling tool, then whatever is written in the proc will be effective. Now the parameters, symbolic parameters that we have in the proc are getting resolved from within the proc also, JCL also. Same parameters. Suppose date and time both are getting resolved from within the JCL and proc both. Then what will happen is the JCL one will take precedence. Proc one will get invalid, nullified. The JCL has higher priority. Now for the same parameters, if all these parameters are resolved from within the proc, JCL, and job scheduling tool, all three, then the job scheduling tool will take the precedence. JCL and proc parameters will get nullified. So this is the priority level. Okay, sequence, priority sequence. Now let me just quickly show you one example. So we have a JCL. So The example that I gave here, this is the example of production annuity environment where we have job scheduling tools. Now, if this kind of a job you have to test in dev environment, how will you test it? In dev environment, you have to test this job. In dev environment, we don't have any job scheduling tools, so these values will not come from any job scheduling tool. So we have a verb called set. We have to use this verb to resolve the values from within the JCL. So let me write it this way. So just ignore this line first of all. Here, what I'm doing is I have taken utility IBgener and I'm copying data from this file to this file. Input file is matsc.jahangir.ps. Output file is matsc.ibgener.output.d ampersand dot. Now in the output file, I'm using symbolic parameter. This output file I'm creating. Now, when you submit this job, the JCL will expect one value for this ampersand data, this symbolic parameter. Now, since this is testing job, the value can be passed from within the job. So I have written set. So set is another, what is that called? Keyword or statement. So JCL has some 8 to 9 statements. So from that, one statement is called set. So set date equal to this one, 24 suppose 0325. Now while resolving, we don't write ampersand date dot, we just write date. So if I submit it sub, next is 0. Now if you go to spool, starts s semicolon st, go inside, go to the third, see job is successfully completed and matsc.ibgener.output.d240325 cataloged. This file is cataloged. See, the date has been automatically taken. matsc.ibgener.output.d in place of this 240325 cataloged. Now, if you go and open this file, you will see the data is also present inside. See, exact same data which is present in the input file. So did you get it? Did you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we have another process which is called GDG, Generation Data Group. What is GDG? So in this context, I can say that this entire project, which you handle through normal PS files, where you had to create this kind of symbolic parameters, you had to use this kind of symbolic parameters. The same thing can be handled with GDG without using symbolic parameters. So GDG is a concept. It is also a file concept. GDG files are also same as PS files, but the naming convention is only different in case of GDG file. Only the naming convention is different. Everything else is same. The functioning, the way of creation of a generation, the way of creation of, creating data from one GDG to another GDG. Everything is same as PS files. The name will look different. And one extra thing is there is a base, first of all, then there is generation. There are two things, base and generation. What is the base? So GDG generation means PS files, normal PS files. So to have those generations, first of all, we need to create the base. To have the generations, first of all, we need to create the base. Okay. Now, GDG concept, the definition of GDG is the data, the files are chronologically and functionally connected to each other. Chronologically and functionally. Why? Because whenever you try to create a file, it will take a specific name automatically. I will tell you why functionally related. Now, before generating any GDG generation, you have to generate one base. So for base, there are three things. One is create the base, one is delete the base, one is alter the base. Create the base with the help of which utility? IDCAMS. You have to create a base. With the help of all IDCAMS utility, you have to delete the base. With the help of IDCAMS utility, you have to alter the base. Now, what is alter? Alter means you have created the base. Now the base has some specifications or some functionalities, some features. If you want to change those features, you have to use alter quality after creation. So if you have idea about SQL, so we have alter query there. If you have created a table already with some columns, and all these columns have specific data types and data lengths. After creating the column, if you want to change anything about the table structure, for example, you want to change the name of a column, or if you want to add a new column to the table, or you want to change the data type or data structure of the of any column, you have to use alter query. So alter can only be done on thing which is already there. So in this case of GDG also we have similar concept. So this base you can compare with. So what is the use of this base? Actually it will do nothing. You cannot create, you cannot open the base. If you create the base, you just have to create it and keep it. You neither can open it nor you can do anything with it. So it's like you can compare this with a house that you're going to build. Suppose you want to build a three-story building, so you want to have three floors in that building. Before starting, you have to discuss with the architect, you have to make a proper design, and you have to make the base or the foundation of the house very strong, right? It has to be strong, as much strong, so that it can handle the pressure or bear the pressure of the three floors that you are going to build over it, right? So if you create the foundation weak, then it will not take the pressure of the three floors. It will break, the house will break. That is why the foundation has to be strong. That is why the architect will tell you that, okay, this much deep you have to dig and you have to put the pillars so that the base is strong enough to withstand the pressure of three floors on top of it. That is what is called base. So in case of GDG, we have a similar concept. If you find any difficulty in any thing, you just can stop me immediately, no problem. So in this example, first of all, we'll create a base. Okay, we'll create a base. How to create a base? As I said, with the help of id cams utility, we will create a base. Sysprint dd, sysout dd, these are common lines. Then there's a command called define GDG name. Within bracket we have to use the base name. So I think I already have this base matsc.jahangir.gdg1. I will create GDG4. I think I have 1 2 3, all three of them. Now
So how did
define
you
GDG.
create? How did you create the GDG?
No, I'm creating now. I haven't created it.
Okay.
I'm creating in this JCL. I'm telling you this, the parameters, the meaning of these parameters and what they will do. What are the uses of these parameters? Okay. So define
All right.
GDG. This is the command of creating the GDG. Hyphen means continuation. So you have multiple parameters on the GDG. First parameter is name. What is the name of the GDG? Same is limit. Second is
Limit,
limit.
no
Then
empty,
no empty, scratch. That is why this
scratch.
hyphens. Now limit means, as I said, that when you want to build a house and you have told the architect that I want to have three floors on top of it, then the architect will make this foundation that much strong so that it is able to withstand the pressure. If you want to create more floor after creating the house, after creating the foundation for three floors, if you want to create more floors, what will happen? You cannot create more floors, it will break because the foundation is not strong enough to withstand the pressure of four floors. That is called limit. How many maximum floors you can create on top of this foundation? Similarly, when you create a base, limit means how many generations will you be able to create on this base maximum. Generations means PS file, just like matc.jahangir.ps, those kind of files, but these are GDG files. Functionality wise, usage wise, everything is same, just the name is different. How many maximum generations you can create on top of this file? Maximum you can create 255, but in this JSL I want to create only 3. Correct? Now limit you have given 3. What will happen if you try to create the fourth one? When you create 3 generations, it is fine, nothing will happen. When you try to create fourth one, what will happen? Then the two parameters, one is called empty. First discuss no empty. Let's discuss no empty. Then let's discuss empty. What is no empty? So I have given no empty. No empty means when you create first generation, the file will look like this. Automatically, the file name will become like this. Here, no, at end G0 0001 V00. This kind of name it will take automatically. This is the first generation. So it will be successfully created. Second generation G002 successfully created. Third generation G003 successfully created. No problem because limit is 3. When you try to create fourth generation, what will happen? Since the limit is 3, it cannot have 4 generations in the system. So because of this no empty parameter, the oldest generation will be uncatalogued immediately. And now you are going to have only 3 generations, 2, 3, and 4. If you want to generate the fifth generation, it will uncatalog the oldest one, that is second generation. So no empty means whenever you cross the limit and you want to create a new generation, the oldest one will be uncatalogued. Now try to understand the difference between uncatalog and delete. Uncatalog doesn't mean it will be deleted. Uncatalog means it will be in inactive state. Then what is the use of the scratch? So there are two things called scratch. One is called no scratch. Scratch means the version which is generation which is just uncatalogued will be deleted permanently from the system. And if you had written no scratch, it would have not deleted this one. It would have kept it uncatalogued only. So try to understand. While creating a base, you first have to give the base name. Second, you have to give the limit, how many maximum generations you can create. And then what will happen if you create more generations on top of it. For example, this GDG, when you create, and if you use this GDG in a file, in a project which is going on. So if you have given limit 30, so 30 days you will be able to create 30 files, no problem. On the 31st day, when you create the 31st generation, what will happen? Since the limit is 30, the oldest one will be uncatalogued. So virtually, what it will mean is all the files will be present in the system in maximum of 30 days. Okay. So this is no empty. What is empty? Empty means you create 3 generations, no problem. Now, when you want to create the fourth generation, okay, when you want to create the fourth generation, then all these older generations will be uncatalogued. That is why it's called empty. Empty means when the limit is crossed, and if you want to create another generation, all the older generations will be uncatalogued, and the scratch parameter will delete all these older generations. But in case of no empty, when the limit is crossed, only the oldest generation will be uncatalogued, and that generation will be deleted also because of the scratch. Did you get it? Any doubt, or you did not understand anything?
Yeah,
Can you
my system.
repeat?
Hmm?
Can you repeat?
Yes.
Please
So
repeat from explaining no empty. My system went down from explaining no empty. You were
yeah.
saying that we have a difference between no empty and empty. Then you're trying to explain no empty first. Can you start from there, please?
Yes, so limit 3 means you can create a maximum 3 generations on top of this GDG. How will it look like? First, the GDG name will come, then G0001.V00. This name will come automatically. I'll tell you how to create a generation. The first time you create, it will have this name, first generation, latest. When you create another generation next day, it will have another generation, no problem. When you create another generation, the 3 generations you can create without any problem. But since while creating the base, you added these features that it can have a maximum limit 3. So you cannot create one more generation without having any impact. So what is the impact? Now, if you had created the base with limit 3 and no empty, what is the meaning of no empty? No empty means whenever you cross the limit of 3 and you create the fourth generation, so the system cannot have 4 generations as the limit is 3. It will uncatalog the oldest one. This file will be uncatalogued from the system and immediately it will be deleted because of the scratch parameter. If you create the next day fifth generation, then the oldest one second will be uncatalogued. So maximum you can have 3 generations at a time in the system. What is this one? No empty. An empty parameter is you can have maximum 3 generations, no problem. When you create the fourth one, what will happen? It is not going to uncatalog the oldest one. It will uncatalog all the older ones whenever you cross the limit. And the uncataloged versions will also be deleted because of scratch parameter. Now next day you can create 5th generation, no problem. 6th generation, no problem. When you create 7th generation, it has crossed 3. 4th, 5th and 6th will be uncatalogued again. So empty, by the names you can identify. Empty means empty all the older generations when the limit is crossed. And no empty means don't empty all the older generations when the limit is crossed. Only empty the oldest one. Clear?
Clear, very clear.
So anyway, I will create it and I'll show you. It will be clear again. So let me submit this. Maxis 12. I think this one I have already. Oh, I already have GDG 4. I'll create GDG 5. Maxis is 0. Now let me see how it looks like. So this is the base I have generated. See question mark. There is no volume serial number because it's not a PS file. If you want to open it or check information, it will tell GDG base. No information available. You want to view it, browse it, edit it, nothing will happen. GDG base. So this base you just have to create and keep in your system. You cannot do anything with this base. You just have to create. This is the foundation of a house. You build the foundation. Can you stay in the foundation without having a terrace or without having a roof? If you don't have a roof, you don't have walls in your house, you cannot stay on the foundation just by creating it. Similarly, when you create a base, you'll not be able to use it unless you create generations. Now, how will you create generations? So you have to identify, understand that in base we have three things. One is create, one is delete, and one is alter. So delete alter will do at last. Now let us do create. We have done create. Now let us create generations on top of it. Now how will you create generations? Same way how you created the generations for PS files. Sorry, how we created PS files. See, IFBR 14, sysout DD, sysout DDDS, and MATC.Jahangir.GDG5. Now, how to create a generation? This is little different. The way of writing is different. When you want to create a PS file, what do you write? MATC.Jahangir.PS or PS1 or PS2 directly. You hard code the name. But when you want to create a generation, how do you have to write? You have to write the base name and within parenthesis you have to write +1. Within bracket you have to write +1. +1 means add one generation to this base. The virtual meaning of this one is add one generation to this base. We're asking the system. Then all these same parameters, disp, unit, space, DCB, all of that. If you submit this job, here if you see this name, with this name the file has been created. MATSC.Jahangir.GDG5.G0001V00. I did not write this name. I did not hardcode this name in the JCL. I wrote what I wrote. I wrote +1, but automatically it has taken this name. This is what is why is it is called GDG generations and GDG base. These are chronologically and functionally related. Why chronologically and functionally? If these are not chronologically and functionally related, this name would not have come. This has come automatically because these are interrelated. Okay, this is how you have to create generations in your system on a GDG base. Clear? So it's a normal PS file only. You can do whatever you want to do with this file. It's a normal PS file. Now this is the current generation, latest generation. How will you identify this? 0. 0 means if you have to refer to the same file in your JCL. If you want to refer to the same file in your JCL, how will you refer to it? By writing 0. You cannot write this whole name in your JCL. It will not identify. If you have to use this file as input or output in any JCL, any existing file, you have to give the version name. This is 0 version. 0 means latest version. You have to write within parenthesis 0. Then only it will identify, it will relate to this file. Now I'll tell you, if you create one more file, submit this job one more time. See, you don't have to change the file name. If it was a PS file, you would have to change the file name because every time you cannot create the same file name. But in case of GDG, just write +1. Every time it will keep on adding in new generation. So here, if you see, second generation has come automatically. So these are all PS files. If you want to check the information, see information. If you want to write something, suppose if you want to exact same PS file, just it's a GDG, and it's the naming permission is different. Now, since I have created one more generation, this version has become the latest one. Latest one is denoted as 0. Previous one is 0 denoted as -1. Now, the version which was latest just few minutes back has become previous because I have generated one more version. This latest version will be called 0. If you want to denote it in the JCL, if you want to use this file, you have to denote it as 0. If you want to use this file in a JCL, you have to denote it as -1. So 0 version, current version, previous version. If you create one more generation, just submit this job one more time. See, third generation is generated. Third generation is created.
The third generation will now be 0. The previous one will be -1. And
Exactly.
the other one will be
-2.
-2.
Exactly.
Okay.
So number line, if you remember in mathematics, we had number line. On the right hand side, we had positive numbers. On the left hand side, we had negative numbers. In between, we had 0. So current generation. So every day, not every day, whenever you create a new generation, the generation sequence is going to change. Meaning, whichever you create newly is going to be your latest one. So now, see, 3 generations I have created. If you remember, while creating the base, I gave limit 3. Correct? I gave limit 3. Now I have created 3 generations. So let me see if I can create one more generation. If I submit this job is successful. Now let me see. We already have first, second, and third generation. Let me see what happens. See, we have 2, 3, and 4. We don't have the first generation anymore in the system. It is uncatalogued, and because of scratch parameter, it is deleted also. Did you get it?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you submit it now one more time, then what will happen? This time 2, 3, 4 were there. Now we have 3, 4, 5. Second generation is gone. So this way, every day when you create a generation, automatically this version will be deleted. That is why I told you that if any project is handled through a PS file, a normal PS files, then what will happen? There are two cases. If you don't want to use symbolic parameter, then what we have to do? After using this input and output files every day, we have to delete them at the end of the JCL so that next day we can receive a file and we are able to create another file. So that is extra cost of deleting the files. And also, if you want to have backup of these files before deleting, that is another cost because you have to run two JCL, two steps now. One is to have backup, one is to delete. And if you say no, we will handle it through symbolic parameter, you can have it, no problem. But if you use GDG, you don't have to take any headache for these symbolic parameters. With this GDG, since every day the file name is going to change automatically, you don't need any symbolic parameter. And you don't need to delete them manually also. Automatically, these will be deleted. Okay. Now, so in this step, we are creating generations, one generation at a time. Okay. Now, if you want to create multiple generations within the same JCL, how will you do? On the same GDG base, you want to create multiple generations. One second.
We will change the parameters to suit
Yes.
the base and the generation data. So that's what we're going to do.
Yes, exactly. So if you want to create only one generation in a JCL on a GDG base, you have to use +1. But on the same GDG base, if you want to create multiple generations within the same JCL, then you have to start with +1, then you have to give +2. So first time when you create, you have to use +1. One generation will be added. Second time when you create on the same base, I'm not talking about different base. If it's a different base, you have to use +1 for the first time. But if it's the same base, then +1, then +2, +3, +4, +4, +5, like that. Every time it is not going to be +1. Okay.
Okay.
Now, let me show you. So we have 3 generations, 3, 4, and 5. Now, if I submit this JCL, in this JCL, I am creating 2 versions at a time. So 3, 4, 5 we have. 6, 7 will be created. So we'll have 5, 6, 7. 3 and 4 will be gone. Let me see. So 5, 6, 7 we have. 3, 4 are gone. Got it? Now, let me have this example. In this example, using IBGener, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy data from a GDG file to a PS file. And the PS file I'm going to create new. So this is a new file, PS file, and the input file is a GDG. So just to show you whether we can copy data from GDG to PS, GDG generation to PS, PS to GDG generation or not. So I have written GDG 5 -1. Can you tell me which one is -1 here?
Can you repeat your question?
So in my JCL, using IBGener utility, I am going to copy data from a GDG generation to a PS file, and the PS file I'm creating newly. And I am using generation name as -1. So can you tell me which one is -1 from this list?
The 05, the GOO05VO.
No, no, no. This is 0. This is -1. This is -2. So the latest one will always be 0. Current generation.
Oh,
This is yeah.
so
The
the
latest
latest
one is
is the
always
last
zero.
is the
Yeah, so
last one.
Sorry.
yes, the one previous is the -1.
Yes, the latest one will always is 0. 0 means latest generation, current generation.
Yeah.
And the previous one is going to be your -1 generation. So if you have to use this file, for example, you have written something inside this file. You have written IBM, or suppose you have written something else, India. You have written India. And this file you are going to use as input. In the JCL, you cannot use this name. How will you refer to this file? You have to use -1. Okay, I'm going to create a file called PS200. Let us see whether it gets created or not. Axis is 0. Let me see the output file. If you want to check the attributes, you can check. And also, if you go inside, you'll see the data also. See, data is also present in India. This is how data will also get copied.
Hmm.
If you want to do the opposite of this, if you want to copy data from a PS file to a new GDG generation. So input file is PS, output file is a new GDG generation. That means you are going to create a generation and also copy the data. So how many generations we have currently? We have 3 generations, 5, 6, and 7. What will happen is it will create the 8th generation, 5th generation will be gone, and in the 8th generation, the data will also get copied from the input PS file. Okay, so let me submit this. So currently I have 5, 6, 7. Let me refresh it. See, 6, 7, 8. And this is the latest one which is generated just now. And if you go inside, see, data is also present because these have come from the input file. Okay, clear?
Yeah.
Now, if you want to copy data from input file, suppose let me delete the data in the on this generation. I want to copy data from a PS file to this generation. How will you denote this generation?
Come again. We want to copy a file from
PS file
from
to this
okay.
GDG generation, this one. How will you define
Neg
this generation?
this is a zero, this is one, this is -1, this is -2.
Yes,
So
-2.
-2.
So you can
Okay.
write -2, and -2 as in these are all existing files, so you cannot create them again. So whenever these are existing files, you can use this equal to old, and you don't need to write anything else. So same thing we practice during PS files also. So you want to copy data from a PS file to an existing GDG version. This is not a GDG new GDG generation, it's existing GDG generation. So you have to write the name, then write the version name. So if you submit, let us see whether data gets copied or not in that generation. So if you now open it, see data is copied. Before running
Hmm.
this JCL, we did not have anything. Now we have this data. This has come from the input file. So this is how we can copy data from PS to GDG, GDG to PS. Same way. See, all the things that you do with PS file, like with IBR 14, you create PS file, you delete PS file. With IBgener, you copy data from one PS to another PS. With sort, you copy data. With ice tool, you copy. All the things that you do with normal PS file, same things you can do with GDG generations also. No issues, no problem. Okay. Now this is the question that will be asked in your interview. This is very, very important question. So here, see, I am using two generations. So what are the questions that will be asked from GDG concept in interviews? First thing, so normal questions like how do you create a generation? How do you delete a generation? So with IDCAM security and all, you can tell. But this is the most important question that will be asked. So what is the question here? First of all, they'll ask, how will you create a new GDG generation? How will you create? So you have to write with IBF 14, we can create a generation and we have to write +1. GDG base name within +1, within parenthesis +1. So it will create a new generation. Next thing they will ask is, okay, in one step, you create a new GDG generation. In another step, you want to use the same generation as output or input. How will you do? Do you get my question? In one step, you are creating a new GDG generation. In another step, the same GDG generation which you are creating, you want to use this as input or output. How will you do it? So you have to tell him that I will create it with +1, and in the next step, if I want to use this as input or as output, I have to use +1 only. So here the generation that I'm creating in the first step, same generation I'm using as output in the second step. Are you getting it? Hello?
Very confusing. I'm confused there.
No, no, no. See, it's easy. Question is, you are creating a generation in one step. Okay. After creating the generation in one step, how will you be how are you going to use this as input or as output in another step? This is the question. So when you create a file in one step, obviously you can use it in another step as input or output, no problem. But how are you going to use? That is what is the question. Did you get my question first of all?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
So
sure.
the first you say we create with +1,
Hmm.
and if we have to create input or output, we only use +1 only.
Yeah, that is the answer. So if the question is, if you create a generation in one step, how will you use it in another step as either input or output does not matter. So you have to tell that we will create with +1, and also if I have to use the same GDG generation in any other step as input or as output, I have to use +1 only. Then the
Hmm.
third question will be, why do you have to use +1? Since you are creating a generation in the first step, after creating this generation becomes the current generation in the system. So you have to use 0 here. Why are you using +1?
Because it's going to be it's a new generation and it's going to be a new a new
Yeah.
variable, the zero thing. Then that will be +1 and
Yes.
then plus
Your
plus
question,
two.
Your answer is like 50% correct. Now the question is logical. Question is okay. In the first step, you're creating a base, creating a generation. So as we already know that whenever you create a generation, suppose this generation we have, this is suppose newly created. This is zeros generation, right? This is not plus one
Mm-hmm.
generation anymore. After creating it
Yes.
becomes zero. So why do you have to use plus one then in your JCL? This is the third question. This is the most important question of GDG. And the answer for this will be see, since the JCL is running and it has not stopped, it is running. So the generation which is created in one step does not become the current generation physically in the mainframe system.
Hmm.
So the generation which we create, since the JCL, as long as the JCL is running, this file does not become the current generation physically in the system. It is created like a temporary file. It is not yet the current generation physically in the mainframe system. That means here if you come while running the job, you cannot see. That is why when we have to refer to the same file in any other step, we have to use same name. Okay.
Yeah.
Now the fourth question will be, okay, your answer is correct. Now this step runs successfully. This step runs successfully and your step fails here. This step fails for some reason, for some other reason. How will you restart the job? So fourth question is this step runs successfully. Now this step here, so there was some issue, it failed. How will you restart it? So you have to tell, okay, I will fix the issue. Then while while restarting, this time I'll restart from step 2 since step 1 already ran once. I'll restart from step 2. Now, do I have to use plus 1 or 0 this time? This time I have to use 0. Why?
Zero. Yeah.
Because the JCL stopped. When it failed, the JCL stopped. When the JCL stopped, the generation which I created in the first step actually became the generation physically in the system. Since the JCL stopped, this generation which was created became the current generation physically. So when I have to refer to the same file in the second step after restarting, I have to refer to as 0. It is the current generation now.
Mm.
Got it?
Yeah. So if you want to create a third step too, it is step one, step two. We are prompted to create another step, which is let's say
Yeah.
step three,
Yeah.
assuming. Then if this one is plus two, the first
Yeah.
step to plus two, this will be zero. Then this will be plus one, and the next one will be zero. It will
Exactly.
be
Exactly.
Martin GDG 50 or GDG 6. Okay, 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 okay.
Exactly. One minus, you have to do minus one in from all the versions when you
Mm.
restart. So these are the four questions. First of all, first question is how will you create a generation? You have to say I have to give base name, then I have to write plus one within parenthesis, right? Second question
Mm-hmm.
is if you want to create a generation in the first step, if you create it, how are you going to use it in the second step? So you have to say I am going to use it as plus one only. Why? You were creating it, why shouldn't you use 0? Because it's a current generation after creating. Then you have to tell that since the JCL is still running, it has not stopped. So the version or the generation which is created, it has not become the current generation physically. So if I write 0 here, what it will do is it will fetch some the existing version which is there in the system, not this one, because it has not come to the system yet. It is still in the JCL. That is why if I have to refer to the same file, I have to use plus one. Third question will be, okay, if second step fails after first step runs successfully, how will you restart? You have to tell, since first step failed, the JCL stopped. Sorry, second step failed after running first step, the JCL stopped. When it stopped, this file became the current generation. Now, if I have to refer to the same file, I have to use 0 this time. These are the questions from GDG. You can execute and see. Now, okay, last is alter parameter. Alter as in, see, when you created a GDG base, you created with limit 3, no empty scratch. Limit 3. Now you realize that, okay, limit 3 is very small. Every 3 days, the older generations are getting, every day the older generations are getting deleted, meaning all the files are present only for 3 days. So let me increase this to 30. Now, there are two ways. One is to delete the base. So when you delete a base, everything will be gone, the generations also, and create a new one. So that is not possible. So you will lose the data. What you can do is you can use alter query to modify the features. So same ID comes alter GDG base name. This time I have written limit 5. Or if I write limit 30, empty no scratch. So whatever after alter base name you write, these are the new features. While creating the base, I used limit 3, no empty scratch. Now the new features will be limit 30, empty no scratch.
Hmm.
Did you get it?
Hmm. Yeah. So
So this
so
is
the
why
new
alter
so
is used.
so the new one will delete the new base after 30
Exactly.
30 steps.
Exactly. Exactly. So this is why we alter. Same concept we have for SQL also. So if the client is sending employee name, salary, employee salary, employee ID, employee address, 4 details to you, and they have asked you to store this data. So you have created a table with employee name, employee salary, employee ID, employee address. 4 columns are there in the table. You are storing the data for 2 years. After 2 years, the client says that we are going to send one more detail, employee company name.
Hmm.
Now, will you delete the table so that you can create a new table with 5 columns? No. If you delete the table, the data will be gone. You cannot lose the existing data that you have. What you will do is you will
Absolutely.
use alter query to create a new column.
Hmm.
So currently we have employee name, employee salary, employee ID, employee address. Next column will be employee company name. Next column will be added. This is what alter parameter does. Same concept here also. And finally, if you want to delete a generation, sorry, delete a version, the base with IDCAMs you can do.
Sorry, Jahan, go back. I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, in this column, in this view command, all these lines we can copy in, right? They're full of data, right?
These ones.
No, 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 not the name. The line before the line before the name, this line,
Oh,
they
these ones.
are yeah, they are embedded with data, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
we can copy them. Exactly. Okay,
You
okay.
can do, you
So
can do.
when you write V, when you write V, that means you are
See,
copying the data. Yeah.
no, V means to view. If you want to view this member, you have to use view. V. So there are 3 ways of opening any member. Either view mode. If you can use browse mode also. But if you use browse mode, it does not look good. It's a format which is you where you don't have any edit access. You cannot edit anything, or there's no color difference also. It does not look good. So there's another
Mm.
way of opening, that is E, edit mode. But in your project, you will not have edit access to your production UAT JCL. So if you want to open any production or UAT JCL with edit mode, it will not allow you. Even though it allows you, you should not open it in edit mode. Edit mode means if you by mistake do some changes, and if you don't save it, it will be auto saved. So we can't take the risk of changing something in an existing JCL where we are not supposed to change. That is why it is very safe to use view. Always use view. That is why use view to open the JCLs, COBOL programs, copybooks, all the members, and use browse to open the files. You can open the
All right.
files with view mode also, but the thing is, if the file has too many data, if it has 1 million data, the processing time will be too high. Your screen will get stuck. You will have to kill your session, then relog in. So that is why always use browse while opening a file.
All right. Thank you.
Now, IDCAMs can be used to delete a GDG base. Now, if you delete a base, it will delete all the generations also. So delete within parentheses base name GDG force. It will force delete the base and its generations also. This is what is called GDG. All about GDG. Okay. So with the help of IDCAMs, we can create a base, delete a base, alter a base, and generation. Normally, how you use PS files, same thing you can do for generations also.